Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to our new video. Before we begin talking about our new topic, absolute values, just want to do a quick review of multiplying and dividing positive and negative integers. So you'll get a pop-up window just about now. Okay, so if you've answered the questions, I'll just go ahead and I'll put the answers here so you can double check with yourself to make sure you got them right. So 6 times negative 7 is negative 42. Negative 20 divided by negative 5 is positive 4. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. Excuse me. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. Negative 8 times negative 3 is positive 24. And finally, 22 divided by negative 11 is negative 2. Okay, I'll leave that up just a second so you can double check. Alright, so now moving along to absolute values. Absolute values are defined by the absolute value of a number is the number's distance from 0. And the most important part about this is distance is always positive. Okay? We'll explain more about that in class, but just remember, distance is always positive. So when we look at the number negative 8, and for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm always going to put my absolute value brackets using the yellow marker, so you don't think it's part of the problem, or it's a number within the problem. So the absolute value of negative 8, well, we just have to think, what's the distance from negative 8 to 0? It's 8 units, so that answer is 8. So the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. Now if we look directly underneath that, the absolute value of 8, well, what's the distance between 8 and 0? 8. So the absolute value of 8 is also 8. Okay, moving along, the absolute value of negative 22, well, what's the distance between negative 22 and 0? Is 22. And again, the absolute value of 22, well, what's the distance between 22 and 0? Is 22. Okay, so I'm going to leave this up for you. Find the absolute value of the following. Okay, and if you've answered your questions, the absolute value of 10 is 10. The absolute value of negative 20 is 20. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. And finally, the absolute value of 6 is 6. Okay. When you have an absolute value within an actual problem, it's important to note that absolute values are treated like parentheses in the order of operations. So as you would with parentheses, you work on the inside first, and then you work outside of that. So if we take a look at this problem, 6 plus the absolute value of negative 4 minus 5, we have a couple of things going on. The first thing we need to do is we look inside the absolute value brackets, and we see we have negative 4 minus 5. I'm going to write that down over here. And as we recall from a couple of days ago, when we have this type of statement, we can use the LCC method to help us solve it. So we leave negative 4, we change the minus to a plus, and we change the positive 5 to a negative 5. So negative 4 plus negative 5 is negative 9. We can rewrite the problem substituting negative 9 in for negative 4 minus 5. Okay? From here, we just continue like always. 6 plus the absolute value of negative 9. Well, we have to figure out what the absolute value of negative 9 is now. So what's the distance between 9 and 0? Negative 9 and 0 is 9. That leaves us with 6 plus 9, which is 15. So 6 plus the absolute value of negative 4 minus 5 is 15. Okay, next problem, 8 minus the absolute value of 6 plus negative 12. So if we look on the inside of the absolute value brackets, 6 plus negative 12, well, it's an addition statement. Our signs are opposite, so we subtract. 12 minus 6 is 6, and we take the sign from the higher number, which is negative 6. So we are left with 8 minus absolute value of negative 6. Well, now we have to figure out what the absolute value of negative 6 is. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. So we're left with 8 minus 6, which is 2, which means the answer to the original problem is 2. Okay, leave this problem up for you a second. Okay, so we have negative 6 minus 10, and since that's subtraction, I'm just going to do my work on the side. It helps me organize my thoughts. I'm going to use LCC. So we leave the negative 6, we change the minus to a plus, and then we change positive 10 to negative 10. Negative 6 plus negative 10 is negative 16. So we can rewrite the problem as 5 plus negative 16. The absolute value of negative 16 is positive 16. So 5 plus 16 is 21. The solution to our original equation then is 21. Okay, you should get a pop-up box now for this problem. Okay, so we have negative 6 plus 4 is what's inside the absolute value bracket, so that's what we have to solve first. Negative 6 plus 4, the signs are different, so we subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. And we take the sign of the higher number, in this case it's negative, so we have negative 2. We are left with negative 8 plus the absolute value of negative 2. So now we have to figure out what the absolute value of negative 2 is, and the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. So we have negative 8 plus 2. The signs are different, so we have to do this again. We subtract. 8 minus 2 is 6. And we take the sign of the higher number, which leaves us with negative 6. And that's our solution to this problem. Okay? Don't forget to do your other homework assignment for tonight, which was to create a word problem. And also to bring in some of the problems from the previous assignments. That way we can discuss it in class tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.